30 minutes there.
Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to the August 5th City Council meeting of the Post Falls City Council. Clerk will note that all council members are present and would like to welcome Deidre as the clerk of the evening. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Ceremonies, announcements, appointments, and presentations. We have a few. First is a sad one. This past weekend we lost a longtime member of our business community. Scotty Shaver was reported missing and presumed drowned in Lake Coeur d'Alene. He will be remembered for his generous community support in his annual Body by Scotty block party. I would like to offer my condolences and our prayers to his family. He will be missed. Post Falls Parks and Recreation held their first sprint triathlon this past Sunday. Congratulations to the winners and all participants. This was a big success and will become an annual event. This Thursday, it's the Post Falls Community Picnic and the Kelly Hughes Band at Camelon Park. A barbecue dinner featuring hot dogs, hamburgers, salad, chips, and a beverage served by the Post Falls community volunteers from 5:30 to 7:30. Cost is $6 per person. There's a free concert by the Kelly Hughes Band from 6 to 9 p.m., sponsored by the Post Falls community volunteers. Spokane Street Revitalization Project started last week. Work has started on the $1.8 million Urban Renewal Agency project on Spokane Street, running from Interstate 90 to the Spokane River Bridge. The project is intended to ease traffic and create a city center. It will include safety improvements to the Centennial Trail crossing, landscaped medians, roadway and sidewalk lighting, on-street parking in some areas on the east side of Spokane, and new sidewalks and curbs. Completion is anticipated for late fall. The median near City Hall will include a 5-foot fiberglass fish art piece donated by the Coeur d'Alene tribe. There will be intermittent lane closures during construction. Traffic signals at the intersection of Spokane and 4th were completed earlier this year as part of that revitalization project. Also, I just wanted to announce, I know it was announced today, John Ness, CEO of Kootenai Health. Today we are making an announcement. We wanted you to be among the first to hear this exciting news. Kootenai Health has been named a member of the Mayo Clinic Care Network, the first in the state of Idaho. This is not an acquisition or merger with Mayo Clinic. Kootenai Health will remain an independent community health care provider. That's quite an accomplishment for a local hospital in the town the size of Coeur d'Alene to be selected by the Mayo Clinic. So congratulations to John, all the physicians and practitioners at Kootenai Health. They do a tremendous job for our community. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
There are none tonight, sir.
Any declarations of conflict?
No.
Linda?
I'll recuse myself from consent calendar items D and E for conflict of interest.
Thank you. Any others? With that, clerk, please present the consent calendar.
Item A is minutes, July 15th, 2014. Item B is payables, July 8th through July 28th, 2014. Item C is Foxtail First Edition Subdivision Plat. Item D is Tullamore 1B Final PUD Master Development Addendum. Item E is Post Falls Landing Infill Neighborhood Plan Amendment, Findings of Facts and Conclusions and Conditions. Item F is Access Easement for the City of Rathdrum regarding property on Rathdrum Mountain. Item G is Saltese Way to Mullen Bike Pedestrian Trail State Local Agreement.
Any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion. Clerk, please take the roll.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Pissong,
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye, except for D and E, and I'll abstain.
Motion passes. Thank you. We have one public hearing tonight, and it's on fees for fiscal year 2015. And if anyone wishes to speak on this public hearing, there are forms in the back that can be filled out and turned in to the clerk. And with that, I will open the public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the first part of our budget hearing where we will start with the fees. It is Idaho code that we bring to council any fees that are going to increase more than 5%. However, it's been past practice of the Finance Department in Post Falls to bring every fee, whether how small the increase is, to council for their approval, just so they're aware. This is going to be the first part of a public hearing. I'll have a second one on August 19th. Last year, there was a suggestion that we had 2 public hearings for fees, because usually we have a public hearing and then later on there's a resolution to adopt the fees. So this year we had 2 public hearings. This one will be on tonight, talk about the increase in the fees, and then the next time I'll bring this back to the same presentation will be on August 19th, and we'll have a resolution for council approval that night as well. Okay. The proposed fees increase that we have are going to be on water rates, which will increase 2.5%, reclaimed water increase of 14.5%, reclaimed water cap fees of 3.19%, water cap fees of 2.5%, impact fee increase of 2.8% based on engineering news records. Sanitation fees are going to increase a little over 1% based on our contract with Post Falls Sanitation. There's a couple indexes that we use to calculate the increase on the sanitation fees, and so that, along with the fuel surcharge, and the removal of last year's fuel surcharge brings us to the 1.1%. And on street light fees, there will be no increase on those. So once you look at the percents, and you'll see what does that really mean for a Post Falls resident, and I have listed out this year for fiscal year 2014, street light dollar amount, sanitation, the water connection, what a household would pay if they use 5,000 gallons of water, and also their reclaimed water, which is basically the sewer collection and treatment. So there's a fiscal year 14 amount of $63.10. Fiscal year 2015, the same categories with the new rates listed down below. We'll bring the total to $68.51, and then just show by column what the variance will be. And for the total increase over 14 to fiscal year 15 will be $5.41 for the standard Post Falls resident. If approved after the fee resolution is adopted by council, the fees will be effective October 1st, start of our new fiscal year.
Jason, it's interesting to note, I know we had this discussion last year, but if you look at the total fees of $5.41, $4.90 of it deals with the new requirements being imposed by the EPA on wastewater. So if you look at it, take that out of it, we've got 51-cent increase per month, which we don't like increases, but when you attribute the majority of it to the wastewater as required by the EPA, it's
51 cents.
51 cents total, yeah. So it's pretty nominal increase.
It's pretty
compared
small.
to
It
the
is.
total. Any questions of Jason? Carrie?
I had a question posed to me today.
Okay.
About, so that is for people, Post Falls, in the municipality of Post Falls.
Yeah.
But our reclaimed wastewater, we also accommodate the city of Rathdrum.
Yes.
So they are, so while that is the biggest bulk of our increase, Rathdrum is going to be paying their share.
Yes,
of
they
this
have their
increase
own.
as well.
Terry could probably speak better on this, but we had just a discussion where Rathdrum has their own collection fee, their own collection system, but Post Falls treats what they collect, and so their increase is going to be the same increase for the treatment portion of it, as the same as the Post Falls resident.
Okay, yeah, just to make that clear, because someone
Yeah.
had mentioned that.
That's a good point. Just make sure they're paying their fair
We're
share of
all-
the
yeah,
treatment as well.
we're
That's
all-
right.
We're all getting stuck.
Any other
Yeah.
questions of Jason? Is that the staff report as well?
That's the staff report as well.
Thank you. Are there any,
There is 2 and only 1 wish to speak.
do you have that information for me? Thank you very much. The first name I have is, and I'm sorry, it's Ron
Tarwater?
Tars?
Tarwater?
Tarwater, Tarz, I'm sorry if I butchered that name, does not wish to speak and is in opposition against the 14.5% rate water fee increase.
Cents.
And this was called in to the clerk today, and again, it's 14.5%, but as we saw when we had to adjust to these wastewater increases and changes, there was 14%, Terry, or 14.5 for a couple of years, and then it starts going down. The fees go up, but the increases go down. I'm sorry, the fees do increase, but the percentage of increase goes down. And again, that's mandated on, was forced on us by the EPA, so we really can't control that. So I appreciate his comments, but that's what we have to live with. Second one, Mr. Bob Flowers does wish to speak and is in opposition. Bob.
Bob Flowers. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I know that there's nothing I can say about the 14.5% increase. I mean, it was basically, anything that was to be said about it was basically eliminated by judicial decision, and the people weren't allowed to vote on it. So that's kind of said and done. Monday, I got both my water bill and my electric bill from Avista. Now, I have a 3,000 square foot home, and you wouldn't believe it. It costs me more to water my lawn than what it does to power my entire house for a month. There's something wrong with that. It just doesn't need to go up anymore. And I believe this 2.5% that you're trying to kick onto the water isn't really needed. In fact, considering you're having to add 14.5% for water reclamation, I believe it's just adding insult to injury. It's something that really isn't needed right now. And if it is, I'd like to see somebody tell me why we do need a 2.5% at this point. It's not the amount, it's just the principle of it, that we really don't need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Do you have someone else?
I believe I had one more.
Evans Dotson does wish to speak and is in opposition.
I would like to know how the water, wastewater is when you use the water meter for the wastewater.
How it's calculated?
Yes.
I would defer that to staff. Terry, you want to address that, or?
Single-family residential houses are just billed on a flat rate, so everybody's billed the same. Now, if you get to a business pays the base rate for the first 5,000 gallons and then pays an incremental fee for every 1,000 gallons over that.
Did we simplify that this past year? Wasn't there?
That was on the capitalization fee side, not on the monthly bill.
Okay.
So the base rate is per 1,000 gallons or something, right?
For commercial.
And
for residential, there's just a flat fee for every residential house.
$5.
All the same.
oh, right. For the water, not for the sewer.
Yeah, water.
Yeah, okay. I'm backwards.
Okay. Did that answer your question, sir?
Oh, kinda. When you use the meter for the wastewater, well, my wife's got a lot of flowers, and we use a lot of water in the garden and stuff like that, and that goes right back into the aquifer, and which is not used, and that kind of bothers me. You're going to raise the rates up higher than what they are. Let Ratham pay their own rate.
Well, and actually Rathdrum does. They do collect it, and they do pay their share of it. We treat it, and they pay us for that, but they do pay for their collection.
Well, how's the new construction, how how is that handled? The infrastructure on that is paid for by the contractor, or do we just pick it up?
We don't pick it up, no.
No, they have
Pay
to
their
pay
own.
it
They pay their own.
already. I'm totally against the increase because we like to make our home look fairly decent, and we grow a lot of food in the backyard, and it'd be difficult. I'm 74 years old and on fixed income, and it's pretty tough to see that go down to be increased on us, and we're trying to make the garden help feed us and stuff. And that's my opposition.
Okay, appreciate
And
that.
just to
Thank you,
clarify,
sir.
on the residential, it does not increase the wastewater based upon water used for watering your flower gardens. Your cost of water does go up per 1,000 gallons, but the wastewater is a flat fee. So the 14.5% fee that we're increasing, you can water your garden all you want. It's not going to increase that amount per month.
When you're on a fixed rate, and the way things are.
It is on a fixed rate.
Everything costs more, and every month it costs more, but the increased pay is the same. And it's most difficult to live on a fixed income and then turn around and pay rate after rate after rate without having something to say about it.
I appreciate that, thank you.
And I'm an old man, and it's kind of hard to see it happen.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your explanation, Terry. No one else wishing to testify, and I'm sure, Jason, I'm going to assume no rebuttal. Close the public hearing. Council deliberation. How would you like to act?
Well, we need to wait until next public
Next public
hearing, because we're going to have
So we can
another one.
defer it?
So you want no action, is that correct?
Correct, this is the first public hearing.
Thank you. I forgot about that.
No action today.
No action tonight.
But if you had any comments that you wanted us to take back before the next hearing, tonight would be the night to have those for us.
Any comments or input?
I have a question.
Okay.
On the website is I know that we have advertised quite a few times about that was EPA regulated in order to get our percentage of gray water down, for the rebuilding of the wastewater plant. Is that explained on the website, and does it come up on Channel 13? Just wondering if that explanation of how we got to this point can just be sort of every time we go for this rate raise, if we could just put it out there again so that people remember that it isn't the city raising it. I mean, it is the city raising it, but they're doing it by mandate from the EPA.
We can do that. I don't believe it is right now, but we can add that.
That's good information. Skip, do you have something?
I just wondered if next meeting, if Terry could, or somebody in his crew, could give an explanation on I realize there's small increases, 12 cents, 24, but just give some sort of outline of how we arrive at those increases. What math is used or why. Or you could do it right now, Terry, that'd be wonderful.
Do it right now.
I know you're impatient, Mr. Hisson.
Thank you.
So I'll
I am.
answer right now. The water master plan was done in 2011. They looked at the projects that we had going forward, and they recommended actually a 4.5% increase. We have elected in the city to ask for 2.5% and spread some of those projects out a little farther. So that's where that fee actually got set, was in the master plan that was done in 2011.
Okay.
And to answer Linda's question, on the website is the wastewater master plan that was completed, the facilities plan that was completed last year. I realize that it's a document that's probably about 1,000 pages thick. But if somebody wanted to go in and look at the summary, that explains where we're going with the wastewater and why the fees are where they're at.
But we can add a link so that under the advertisement itself, we could put a link in there saying, if you need further explanation, and take them right to the page.
And just one question about that. Yeah, just right to the page, not to the
Right.
1,000 pages.
Right.
Yeah, because nobody's going to sit there and read those 1,000 pages.
I did.
Well, thank you.
You need to get a life, too.
Sit down. Terry, don't sit down. I have a question for you, please. If I may.
Yes.
On the wastewater master plan that you mentioned, do you guys review that each year to see if there's new technologies or anything that might come up that, I mean, I know we're stuck with what the EPA says we've got to get down to as far as what we put in the river, but do we continuously look at that to see if there's another way?
Yes, in fact, last week, Shelley and myself, a couple others from JUB, we went out and toured 3 other wastewater facilities, looking at how their operations are running, and looking at some specific tools that we're looking at putting out at our plant. About every 5 to 7 years, that master plan is reviewed and revised. To try to review the whole thing on a yearly basis is would get pretty costly. Those engineers don't like to work for free.
I get
But we get publications and stuff comes out all the time that we're always looking for updates on new equipment, new filters that would get us down. We're still working with EPA trying to get the PCB limits reduced in our permit. That every one of those samples cost $1,800 and they want us to send them out 4 times a year. So if we can get that reduced down to twice a year or once a year, or we can go in with Coeur d'Alene and we only have to do it 1 time in the river. We're trying to find some other alternatives there also.
Great. Thank you. Terry?
I want one more for you, Terry. You're kind of a short timer. We got to get our
Get our shots.
yeah. When you were up there the first time, you mentioned they recommended the increases. Can you clarify who they are for the master plan?
That master plan was done by JUB Engineering, a consulting engineering firm that we had contracted with.
Thank you.
So a general comment.
Please.
It's a general comment, as we've already kind of beat to death, and we did last year. The vast majority of these fee increases are based on an unfunded mandate from a federal agency that, in my opinion, has the unconstitutional authority to enact rules with the force of law that we have to contend with. So there are, litigation, not just from this area, but from other areas against the EPA for all sorts of overreaches. But the alternative right now is, because they're the federal government, they have all the money, they have all the lawyers and all the time in the world. Either we comply to the permit that's the most strict in the history of the world, as far as I know. Lake Tahoe is the only other one that comes close. Or they levy fines in excess of $30,000 a day or something like that.
It's $1 million a month.
$1 million a month. And if we refuse to pay those $1 million a month, then he goes to jail first. The rest of us go to jail after that, and they just keep going down the list.
I could go to jail.
You'll be the last guy out.
In theory, yeah. I mean, you'd be the 6th one to go to jail, because you. So that's really what we're contending with, and we are all of us up here are taxpayers in Post Falls too, and nothing aggravates me more than having to pay more because basically dumping the clear drinking water we put in our stomachs would not meet the permit code to put it in the river. So please help us out and contact your congressmen, your senators, and encourage them to put some reins on the EPA, or in my opinion, eliminate it altogether, because it's killing us over here, and I don't like paying it any more than you do. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Ron, because you might remember, because you're younger than me. What have we spent on attorney fees to date on the issue of fighting these regulations?
Last number I heard was in excess of $500,000 in attorney fees, and that excluded consultants and engineers.
And that's just for the city of Post Falls.
In addition to that, we had City of Coeur d'Alene, Harbs out at Hayden. Everybody was fighting the same battle just to get it to the level that it is now. While it's not palatable, it's still much better than it was. So it's a huge, huge expense. And the comment's been made, and I'll say it again, the federal government's got a lot bigger checkbook than we do. There may not be any money in it, but they can write the check.
Money.
They could print the money to write the check.
We're fighting a battle that we just can't win. So we have to do what's best for the citizens. And personally, I don't think throwing additional good money after bad in litigation is in the best interest of the citizens, because it would be non-ending. So anyway.
There's
Thank
some
you.
things we can do something about, but that's one thing that we can't do anything about.
Yeah.
We can't.
Yeah, that's at the federal level, so.
Federal level.
That's beyond us, unfortunately. Unfinished business, we have none. Citizen issues, this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding a city-related issue that is not on the agenda. If you care to speak on something not on the agenda, you can come up to the podium, give your name, and we'll give you 3 minutes to talk. Seeing none, we get into new business. Highlands Paving. You want to kick that off? How do you want to do it?
I think Terry was
Terry?
going to kick it off, weren't you?
so excited.
I agreed to write the memo, and he agreed to speak.
Get our pound of flesh out of it before we use this.
I don't remember that part of the agreement, but
You're short-timed it anyways.
well, I've been with the city now 29 years, and we always chip sealed the streets. Highway districts around this area all chip seal. In fact, the state of Idaho is chip sealing Highway 95 this week and last week. So last year, when we go out and bid for chip seal, we have to accept the lowest responsible bidder. So once somebody bids, they have a low bid. They're an asphalt company or paving company that's been around for years, that has gotten into the chip sealing business. We're pretty much stuck with accepting their bid. Last year, we had a job that was not, I wouldn't say it was 100%. We had some issues with them. And I believe, last year, an individual came in and talked about that. We've tried keeping the sweepers going in those areas to sweep up the loose rocks. So this winter, when we were talking about chip seal, we said, so we need to do something different. So we hired a consulting firm to go over our bid specs, reviewed the specs to ensure that what we were asking for is what we were going to get. They had us change 2 or 3 items in there. And then we also hired this company to come out on the job. So every day that we've chip sealed so far, they've been out on the job to do quality control. They've checked the temperature of the oil, checked the rock chips to make sure that they're clean. We think that might have been part of the problem last year, is that there was some dirt in there. If you get dirt, it soaks up all the oil and it doesn't bond to the rocks. So we've made all these changes. So far, we've chip sealed Celtice Way from McGuire to Pleasant View, and it's also been fog sealed now. I haven't had any complaints on that section of roadway. And we also did the 1/4-inch chip up in the residential off of Idaho Street in the northern part of the Prairie Falls subdivision. And we swept that last week. It was going to be swept again this week. Next week, they should be back in to do the fog seal on it, which helps to retain the rocks, hold them down better. And so one of the streets that we were looking at chip sealing was Inverness Drive up at the Highlands. Last year, we went in and we put what we call a skin patch. It's a thin layer of asphalt over about 3,000 feet of Inverness. It had areas in it that we were going to have to cut out and patch. Was getting in pretty bad shape. So we put the skin patch on there, knowing that we were going to come back in this year and chip seal over it, which would make it last for a number of years. The individuals that live at the Highlands have come to the city requesting that we do not chip seal their street. And that was a decision that we thought needed to come before the council. We had a meeting with 3 of their representatives a week ago.
2 weeks.
And tried to explain to them the reasons for doing that. I think you've been provided Shelley's memo and also cost analysis that was put together by Mr. Porter of the cost for chip sealing versus paving and at different thicknesses. Even once you put the pavement down, you still need to seal it somehow. Asphalt is porous and the water will go through it. Especially in the winter, the water gets underneath the asphalt, starts freezing. That's when you start popping up and getting chuck holes. So it needs to be sealed somehow. And we found that chip seal is the most cost-effective way to do that. Adds a wear surface on the asphalt. And, not only City of Post Falls, but most other jurisdictions around here also chip seal for that same reason.
Terry, what's been done to fix the problem from last year, other than sweeping?
Well, we've hired, you mean the problem that's up there now? We are going to go in and fog seal that. Also, when we fog seal what we chip, we were going to fog seal all the streets up there. So they would get a second sealant put down over the top.
Do you think that will address the problem, will cure the problem? How do we monitor to make sure that the job that's done, I understand we have new folks doing it this year, but how do we ensure that the job that was done last year that was inferior is corrected?
It's never going to be 100% corrected because the job was bad last year. What we can do now is try to make it the best we can by putting down another sealer, so any loose rocks, anything, it should seal those down.
And we will monitor that to see what the result is.
Strata is the consulting firm, and they will monitor that to make sure that the oil's proper and that we're getting down the proper thickness and all.
Okay. Carrie?
Was any of Inverness asphalted?
Last year, we put a skin patch on 3,100 feet of it. There's still 2,488 feet that has not been done. That's what, we were going to chip seal the whole thing.
Okay, but so is it going to look like a patchwork?
No, we actually put a thin layer of asphalt over the whole roadway for 3,100 feet.
3,100. I'm not good with distances.
The total length of...
How many blocks is 3,100 feet?
If you're looking at a city block's about 300 feet, so it's about 10 blocks.
Yeah,
So, as I understand it, what you got right now is 3,000 feet that's got the skin coating on it, and 2,100 or whatever feet that's got a chip seal that's old, correct? Or an asphalt covering that's old?
Asphalt covering that's old that we have. We have some problems up there with manholes settling and water valves settling, so we went in and cut those around those out and raised them back up to surface and patched around those. So there again is another penetration through the asphalt that allow water to get through if we don't seal it.
So if you chip seal it, now what you're going to have is the entire length of Inverness is going to look the same. Is that correct?
Correct.
It's all going to be uniform.
It's all going to have 1/4-inch chip on it, and then about a week later they'll come in and they'll put a fog seal over the whole thing.
Vivian?
Well, I was just going to say, I have heard from a few of the people in the Highlands, and so I decided to take our brand-new car, we've only had for a couple months, and go off of Greensferry Road and those that were just chip sealed recently, and I went on one that was chip sealed the day before, and I didn't have anything on my tires. Of course you would if you did it the same day that they chip sealed. But every one of those streets have been chip sealed there, and I drove up and down them, and I even got out and I walked on one. There was nothing on my shoes. So I thought if I can drive my brand new car over that and there's nothing on there, then I just can't see why chip sealing isn't.
And also this year, they were required to have 3 rollers and roll it 3 passes with each roller. So we're getting a lot more rolling on it to force the rocks down into the oil also.
And I can see where the people are upset about last year, what happened. I don't blame them for what happened last year. But they've got to know that that isn't going to happen again, because you're not going to use that company. You're not going to use somebody that's not highly recommended. So I can understand where they might want pavement, but with the cost of that, I just can't see that's going to happen.
Well, I just, for the public's information, would like you to explain to them why you have to take the low bid.
No, that's more of a
Maybe
legal
John could-
question. That's,
yeah.
that's actually state code.
I know it is, but I just want the people to understand that.
Responsible bid.
The Idaho procurement statutes require that as a governmental entity, and it applies to cities, to the state, to the county, to water districts, school districts, all of you are bound by the procurement statutes, which if I were on the ball, I could cite to you exactly, but I could find it real quick if you gave me a book. But in a nutshell, when you are purchasing goods or services, in this case it would be goods and a service at the same time because it's a road, and you are required to procure the services of a public works contractor for roads. So there's a requirement that they be licensed with the state. And then you have to choose the lowest bidder that meets your specifications. And so what Mr. Werner wisely did this year is had his specifications looked at in greater detail to make sure to draw those specifications a little tighter so that you can get a better product, because what has been known to happen, I don't purport that it happened here to Post Falls, but if you draw your specifications
Two, generally, you're going to get lower bids that may not meet the requirements that you have. And so, I mean, an example I've given clients in the past is if you ask for a truck, you could get a Toyota when what you really need is a Mack truck, but you're going to have to buy the Toyota because it's a truck. And so, I mean, it's really important to have those specifications, and I think that Mr. Werner has done well by the city to tighten those up, as well as to have the services of someone to oversee and make sure as it's being applied, that it's being applied per those specifications. Alan?
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Well, I guess my question, I know it's water under the bridge, but does the asphalt company not have to put up a performance bond of some sort that we come back? I mean, if we look back at what happened last year, I guess I'm still wondering why these guys got away with what they did, because my street was one of those that got the crappy job. So I live with it every day. No performance bond?
Well,
they did. They have to.
They put up a performance bond, but if they meet the specifications that we had in the contract, unless you want to spend a bunch more money in court trying to fight them, sometimes instead of spending, $10,000 with a lawyer, it's better off to pay the company $5,000. And that's where you get caught in the catch-22.
My only other comment is right along there with Betty Ann. My street was one that was not well done last year. However, I drive down Celtice, and for those of you that live in the Highlands, they did a super job, and you would be happy with what they're doing this year, and I'm sure that you'll be happy if they do it up in your neighborhood.
Thank you. Carrie?
Just let it be known, I want to get on that list of having chip seal done on my street. So just put me on the list. The oversight, so in other chip sealing that is being done, other projects in the city, are you using that same company for oversight, or is this in Highlands that this is being employed to ensure that there isn't a repeat?
No, we hired them for all of the chip sealing that we did this summer.
So everything that's being done here in the
Everything
city
will
of
be,
Glens Falls.
they'll be out there on every job.
Thank you.
Now, this is not a public hearing, but we thought we would, in discussing with the homeowner association, that we would allow one member to speak, just to present their information. So I think what we'll do with council consent is allow the one person to speak.
Sure.
Name for the record, please. Dave Jensen. Dave, come on up to Mike so that she can pick you up, if you will, please. Thanks.
My name is Dave Jensen, and I was elected to represent the Homeowners Association regarding the project plan for the Highlands. We want to express our concern about the city's plan to chip seal the streets at the Highlands and to present a alternate proposal. Inverness is the main street of ingress and egress for our community and heavily traveled by residents, golfers, and tourists. Half of it was paved last year. The plan to chip seal the remainder of Inverness instead of completing the asphalt layer has been met with very negative responses from the Highlands residents. Our experience with the chip sealing done last year was completely unsatisfactory, and I think we've already discussed that item. Tar-covered rocks continue to be embedded in tires, brought into garages, and tracked into homes. Our request is to complete the asphalt paving of approximately 750 yards on Inverness and to cancel any chip sealing on the balance of our streets based on the poor results from last year's application. The cost savings of eliminating the chip sealing can thereby be applied to the asphalt layer on Inverness. The original streets, gutters, and sidewalks in our neighborhood were constructed by the developer with no cost to the city of Post Falls. In the last 10 years, the Highlands residents have paid approximately $3 million in tax revenue to the city. During this period, the city has provided snow removal and a certain amount of street maintenance to roughly 89% of the neighborhood. The Glengarry addition is served by a private street and pays proportionally the same amount of taxes to the city, yet they maintain their own street. We're certainly aware of budget constraints and the many avenues of spending the city has obligated itself to, and we are sure all are beneficial to our city. We feel, however, that we're requesting is not unreasonable. We have an attractive community and are very proud of maintaining its beauty and value. A patchwork job of chip sealing between the already paved areas on Inverness and the Sterling streets would detract from it. We feel that after paying 20 years of taxes to the city with nominal services to our neighborhood, it is time for the city to do a first-class project to finish paving Inverness, the main street that services our community. We appreciate your consideration and strongly urge the council to support our request. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Joe.
Terry, can I fire you back up there again? I just want to make sure I and everybody is clear on what has happened. So 3,000 feet has a half-inch skin seal, is that what you called it?
Yes.
How long would that half-inch skin seal be expected to last were it not chip sealed this year?
4, maybe 5 years.
If it's chip sealed, how much more in general, I'm not going to hold you to this, in general can it be expected to last?
I'd say 8 to 10 years.
So skin sealing the entire length, the balance of it, basically what you're getting is a 4-year life out of the balance, and then 4-year minus one already that has existed on the section that's already been done, correct?
Yes.
So I would see that as a compromise in the duration or the integrity of the road. Am I correct to make that conclusion?
You still need to put a fog seal or something over it to seal it, otherwise water's going to penetrate it. And being that it's only a half-inch thick, now it's going to be more likely to start popping sections up with the water gets underneath there and starts freezing.
Now, to get the same kind of results with an asphalt as opposed to a chip seal, how thick do we need to go down the entire length of Inverness?
I would say at least 1.5 inches.
And if I remember the numbers that were sent to me correctly, that's about an additional cost of $100,000 over chip sealing, is that correct?
Correct.
So an extra $100,000 to get the same amount of road life as chip sealing would provide for $100,000 less, is that correct?
Yes.
More or less?
More or less.
And the concern I've heard is that what the residents are afraid of is a patchwork look, that nothing's going to be done to that half-inch of skin seal that's already been laid down, that nothing will be done with that, and then chip seal is going to be down the rest of it. But in reading the plan, the impression I got was that even the part that was half-inch skin seal last year is going to get chip sealed over it, as well as the balance of it. So you're going to have one uniform road, the entire 5,100 feet, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
We are going to, from the top of Sterling, or right from Sterling, all the way through Inverness, clear back to Mullen, the whole thing would be chipped.
Thanks.
Any other comments?
I'm good.
Carrie, you okay?
I'm great, thank you.
And Dave, I'll give you 1 minute because it's not a public hearing, but I'll let you say one more thing. Come on up.
1 minute.
I just want to present the petition from our neighborhood, and I'll describe it here. We, the undersigned, are against the chip sealing Inverness and request the city of Post Falls to complete the project by continuing the paving as was partially finished last year. And there's 120 signatures.
If you want to give it to clerk, we'll enter that into the record.
Thank you.
Thank you. So council, we have the budget, which shows the chip sealing going to take place, correction of what was done, or hopefully remediation of what was done last year. We've hired a new firm to ensure that the product is installed properly and that the effects are what we want. It has not been the city's intention to pave part of Inverness and then chip seal the balance. It will all be covered. It will all match. There are examples, the Meadows, Celtice, several others where chip sealing has been done. When we met with the homeowners, I said that we would just bring it to council for discussion and see if council wanted to make any changes to the road improvement that is planned.
Well, I would just say the city doesn't have the budget to do what they want us to do. this year. And they said, I think I read where they could wait till next year to do it, they'd have the money, but then look how bad it would be next year if they didn't do anything.
Well, not only that, but if you wait till next year to have the money, then you are going to not do roads that are planned to be improved next year because
That's
there's only
right.
a limited budget each
They
year
won't
for
be
it.
paved.
So, Skip, you have any comments?
I got a question for Terry.
You're getting your exercise tonight.
Stay put, it's quick and easy. Of the money that we spend on road repair, rebuild, whatever, our entire street budget, is there a portion of that comes out of gas taxes as opposed to general fund?
Come on up, Terry.
Okay, come on up, Terry. That's what I meant really in the first place.
You have to take a recess so Terry can rest.
We receive some money back in gas tax. It goes to the general fund, and it's used in the overall street budget. So it's not used just to pave the streets, it's used for vehicle replacement, used for the electricity bill, anything
Okay,
else.
anything to do with road maintenance, though?
Yes.
Okay, but it is not mixed into the general fund and used to clean the city hall?
No, we have to report to the state annually.
Okay.
It's called the annual street financial report, showing that those funds all go towards fleet or street maintenance.
Ballpark, how much do we get a year?
Approximately 900,000.
Oh, we're not talking change here. That's nice. Okay, thank you.
Any comments? Joe?
Just had a comment. I understand that, I've recently moved. I was in the Black Bay Park area up until April, and now in Riverside Harbor. All the streets there have been cap-rocked, and personally, I don't like it. I'm now locked into 30 years of servitude and indebtedness to be in a little better neighborhood, and that's still cap-rocked. But what I hate more is paying taxes. And what I hate even more is forcing other people to pay taxes who believe that cap-rock is good enough. And the primary function of a road is to be durable, not beat up your car. I think we all recognize that the job that was done last year was subpar, and I appreciate Terry and staff for taking great measures to ensure that doesn't happen again. Because a subpar road is not what we spend the tax money on, and that's unfortunate. But without completely revamping the entire tax structure to favor nicer neighborhoods, which is going to be a political nightmare anyway, everybody's going to chip in, so to speak, for the resurfacing of Highlands. And where everybody else is stuck with cap rock or cap seal because that's the cheaper, lower tax alternative, I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If we spend an extra $100,000 to do 1.5 inches asphalt on Inverness, and then either we're favoring the nicer neighborhoods or we need to do it for everybody, in which case all our taxes are going to skyrocket. So I would propose that as long as we've made the assurances that the cap rock will be done properly this time, which I believe you've done a very good job of due diligence on that and invested some extra expense in that as well. As long as the entire road surface is consistent and visually pleasing and it's flat and it's going to hold up for the longest period of time, get the most bang for our buck, I would support leaving the plan to chip seal as is.
Gary had a comment. Thank you.
And I don't disagree. I want to be clear because we didn't see this petition. I want to be clear if the homeowners association is saying, do not chip seal. If you can't do asphalt, don't do the chip seal. So I guess I'm not clear on what they're asking. No chip seal, but do asphalt, or just don't, if you can't do asphalt, don't do chip seal.
Would you like a copy of the petition? How about I just hand it to
You
you?
want to just interpret it for us real quick, and then we can get copies?
I can read it to you verbatim. It's very short. The title is Do It Right. It states, "We, the undersigned, are against the chip sealing of Inverness and request the city of Post Falls to complete the project by continuing the paving as was partially finished last year, period." So the way I would interpret that, you've heard it, but I mean,
So the request is that you pave instead of chip seal. It doesn't say they don't want anything, but it
Okay,
doesn't.
yeah, that's what I wasn't.
That was kind of your question, I think. You know, are they saying either pave it or nothing? I don't think it says that. I think their choice would be chip sealing if at all, not chip sealing if at all possible. They'd rather have the pavement. And I think that was Mr. Jensen's testimony when he spoke to you as well. Alan.
Like I said, I've lived with both. I can understand why every homeowner in the Highlands would be upset with what was done last year, but I now live with what is being done this year, and I think you'll be happy with that. I would go along with Joe and suggest that we stick with the plan that we have.
Thank you. Comments?
I agree.
Do we need a motion or just consensus? Consensus, I think, is adequate. And I think staff came to you wanting direction, and so if you could give them that direction. So we got Carrie?
Yes, I'm
good.
I'm good.
I'm in favor of the chip seal. I travel sell teas, and I've always been a fan of chip seal because the cost to the number of years benefit, there's not a better way to do it. We did a horrible job last year. We've owned up to it. We're doing our best to make up for it, but the chip seal gives us a life that paving simply doesn't, and we don't have the money to do the paving. So I think we'll go up there. I think you'll find it'll be the best chip sealing job anywhere we've ever seen, because I have a feeling most of our staff, along with our consultants, going to be up there watching it. And I want to apologize for the job that was done last year, and but we really don't have financially any way to do it differently. And I truly do believe if you go out and drive Celti's way from Pleasant View back to Green Ferry, or you could go the other way, it's your choice. But at any rate, it's done beautifully. And if your project turns out that well, I'm really certain you're going to be okay with it. So I think we need to just move forward, let staff move forward with our plan.
Dan?
I agree 100% with what Skip just said.
And what we'll do too is I emailed one of the homeowners up in the Highlands today, because he's the one that brought me over and showed me the job that was done last year. And when I get a response back from him, I will make contact with him, because I agree, and as we said during the meeting with you folks from the Homeowner Association, the job done last year was poor. It needs to be fixed. And we will be up to monitor and make sure that what is done properly. And I think steps have been taken to ensure that, and we will monitor it. So thank you for your time with that. By consensus, we'll continue as the project has been planned. Next, we have ordinances and resolutions. First resolution dealing with the fiscal year 2015 budget replacement.
Move to approve the resolution for the fiscal year 2015 budget resolution replacement.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Jacob, Henderson,
Oh, hi.
Hissong,
Aye.
and Wilhelm.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next resolution, Celtice to Mullen Bike Pedestrian Trail.
Move to approve the resolution Celtice to Mullen Bike Pedestrian Trail.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Please take the roll.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Hissong,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is administrative staff reports. Do we have any?
We have none tonight, sir.
Thank you. Council comments. Carrie Hedman.
I've got two real quick. One, I want to thank Chief Hogue, if you could pass that along. Chief Hogue and the entire police department. On Saturday, when we had that just freakishly destructive windstorm, a lot of people in Post Falls and all over lost power, but the PD, in their continual real-time updating on your Facebook page, provided a public service that kind of gives a little preview of what if there was a large disaster. The access that they had, because even people that had lost power still had smartphone access. So whether it was trees down in a roadway, just anything, it was fascinating to watch. And people in surrounding communities were coming to the PD's Facebook page for links to information. So thank you, kudos. That's a great way for the city to use social media for the common good. My other one is I didn't want Terry to have all the fun at the podium, and so I have asked Rob Paulus, who's still here, with the engineering department. He answered a question that I have had posed to me by people out in the community over the last weeks and months, and great answer about the synchronization of the traffic signals on Spokane Street. So I asked him if he would share that for the masses.
Thank you, Councilor Thorson. Along Spokane Street, we have 4 traffic signals. 3 of them are owned and operated by the Idaho Transportation Department. Those would be Celtice Way in Spokane, the 2 at the on and off ramps of I-90, and then the 4th signal at Spokane and 4th Avenue, which was just put in a few months ago and put into operation, is owned by the city of Post Falls. Each of those traffic signals operate by themselves. So they take a look at what's going on and they make decisions as to whether or not they should be green and red and in what direction. What Councilor Thorson has had a number of comments from individuals on is that oftentimes driving through there, you hit 4 red lights and you can't make it through there in a convenient manner.
But that was a norm.
At present, the Idaho Transportation Department is doing a project where they are putting fiber optic communication cables in to connect their 3 signals plus the signal that the city of Post Falls put in. And that will allow for the signals to talk with each other and share information as to how much traffic is in each area, and then make calculated decisions. They call that intelligent transportation systems, and change the timing to move traffic through in the most efficient manner possible. The signals will be utilizing magnetic detectors that are put in the ground, as well as video detection, which will see and recognize cars. That system on Spokane Street should be in operation around October of this year. ITD is also doing the same thing on Pleasant View Road from Celtice Way down through and including Riverbend Avenue as well. Does that answer your question?
It does. There was a wonderful explanation that I had no idea that there was separate ownership and that all of those traffic signals had minds of their own. And I won't take Mr. Werner's advice to just drive faster between those.
Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
I was going to say, I think you said run a red light, but thank you. Thank you, Rob.
I had a gentleman contact me, and he's very active in the veterans groups here in town. There's a cemetery located up on the mountain near the old Pleasant View School, and there are apparently several veterans that have been identified that whose remains are there. At any rate, a group of citizens in that area put up a flagpole to honor those veterans that are there. And it became a bit of a problem getting the flag up every day, getting it back down for dark to maintain the proper etiquette for flag use. Somebody came up with the idea of putting up a light. Excellent. Problem is, they've got a large pole to get up on top of to do this light. And the city just happens to have a truck with a bucket thing mounted on it. And my question is legally, can we in any way assist them in getting a light put on top of that pole through the use of our equipment? And is it something we want to do?
Let's get the legal opinion first.
Yeah, but
So to paraphrase your question, you want to use public equipment for a private benefit?
I'm not sure it's private, John, in that I don't know who owns the cemetery. So it's not a city-owned one, certainly. Carrie, do you have an answer?
I think that I do know who owns the cemetery. I believe it's under county purview.
Okay.
It's on the south side.
Right.
Just past Pleasant View, but I think it is under county purview of putting that light up.
The gentleman I spoke with didn't give me any of that information, or I didn't ask, I guess.
So to get back to your...
So if it is publicly owned, then I think ideally you call the county and say, hey, we'd be willing to help you put a light pole in your cemetery that you're responsible for, and we're just here to be good neighbors. But if you're using the public's resources for a private benefit, then you start to run afoul of some laws, or potentially, additionally, it turns into what do you want to do and which
private entities do you help and which ones don't you help? Who gets to decide who gets helped and who doesn't? And it's a slippery slope that I think I would caution you against going So down. the question then is to determine ownership, whether it's public or private.
Ownership, and frankly, if it gets in kind of muddy like that, they're private parties that I can get a hold of that have such equipment, and I'll see if they'll volunteer. That'd be a lot simpler. They aren't subject to silly laws like ours.
Right. Well, and the laws are there to protect
Right.
the public's money from people who sometimes do things for their own benefit or the benefit of their friends, so. So Zach, you're gonna have to.
Yeah, I'll go get a different route on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's
And it's
fine,
a
John.
good,
Appreciate it. That's
it's a
why
good
you're here.
cause too. I mean, I don't doubt that. Anyone else?
No.
Alan?
I'd just like to extend a thank you to fellow Councilman Linda Wilhelm. I just, driving down the Spokane Street and the highway there, I know that Linda was very involved with getting that beautified. So I just was driving down there the other day and I thought, you know, this is really nice that we did this some years ago, and I know that Linda was very involved in that, so thank you for that. And I'd also like to say that we're about to beautify Spokane Street, and it's kind of a pain in the butt right now, driving through there. I'd ask all the citizens to just bear with us as we get that done, and it'll be just as nice as our entry to our fair city.
60
So,
days, that's what
thank
they
you.
said.
Good. Thank you.
I'll just follow up with Al's comment and thank Dave Fair and the Parks Department for taking such good care of those water features and all the plants that you've planted there. Looks really nice. Thank you, Dave. Thank your staff.
They look really pretty.
And our mayor comments, I'd like to thank everyone who showed up for the hearing on the Veterans Home. I was out of town. I appreciate Mayor Larkin reading a letter I had written, and I appreciate the support by everyone that was there. You know, not certain, I visited with Len Crosby a little bit, not certain what the outcome will be, but I think it's an excellent cause and there's a dire need, and I hope that we can secure a veterans home in our area for those who deserve it. So again, thanks for everybody who participated. It was a great crowd, I understand, 200?
Yeah, it was
So
packed.
it was great, so thank you all very much. With that, we do need an executive session
Yes,
to last not longer than
15 minutes.
Move to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 67-23451A to consider hiring a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent wherein the respective qualities of the individual are to be evaluated in order to fill a particular vacancy or need, and further that no action will be taken during the session, and this session will last no longer than 15 minutes.
Second.
motion seconds. Further discussion. Clerk, please take the roll.
Horson?
Aye.
Wolf?
aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
And Henderson? Hassan?
Aye.
Wilhelm?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We'll enter into executive session. Chief, can I talk to you for
What was that?
You ready to go?
Unreal.
Guys,
Back in session?
meeting to order.
Is there any action to come out of executive session?
To adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Adjourned.